Superman will be the first movie in the DCU and the second overall project following Creature Commandos, which have been and will serve as the basis and the foundation of the DCU. This is especially true for Superman, which has the DCU on its shoulders. It absolutely needs to succeed, but also, as you will soon learn, it has character connections to around half a dozen confirmed DCU projects. Superman looks to be absolutely packed with characters, and in this video I'll be going over every single one of them and everything we know about each one of them at this point. I'm sure that by the time the movie is closer to release we'll know more, but honestly, I'd really rather not. I'm sure there's much more to reveal, other characters we don't know yet will be appearing, but I don't want to know any more than I do right now going into the movie. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe and help me get to my new, currently far away goal of 150,000 subscribers, maybe even by the release of Superman. Let's begin. Speaking of Superman, our new Kal-El aka Clark Kent will be played by David Cornsweet, wearing a suit that combines elements from across Superman's costumed history, with the classic colors, the trunks, and the yellow logo on the back, with the New 52 inspired collar and line details, the Kingdom Come logo but with classic colors, and a gold outline inspired by the Fleischer suit. As Clark, he changes his hair, wears oversized suits, and glasses that make for probably the most convincing disguise for a Clark Kent ever, especially in live action. Superman's origin will be completely skipped over, but the basic tenets of a destroyed world, a child sent away, raised in Smallville, and moved to Metropolis all happened. He's 30 years old, an established reporter at the Daily Planet, in a relationship with Lois Lane, who will already know his identity and has been Superman for a while, long enough that he has a bit of a Superman family like Supergirl and Krypto the Superdog, and given that he's 30, I'd guess like 6 to 8 years is how long he's been around, but in that time, he has yet to fully and truly cement himself as the figurehead of the superhero community, something that I think will happen by the end of the movie. This will technically be Superman's second appearance in the DCU after being seen killed in a vision of the future in Creature Commandos episode 4, something that is true for a number of other characters who are appearing in this movie. Superman is the main and title character, but Lois Lane has been described by James Gunn as having a role of almost equal importance to Clark. Lois is played by Rachel Brosnahan, is the secondary main character and main love interest, and like Clark is an established reporter at the Daily Planet, probably a bit more established in fact. Lois has been described as fiercely intelligent, resourceful, and feisty, which are just some of Lois's defining characteristics in general. Alongside Clark and Lois, the entire Daily Planet staff will be included, including Superman's best pal Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy is played by Skylar Gisondo, easily the most Jimmy Olsen looking Jimmy Olsen in live action history. He's a photographer at the Daily Planet and a good friend of Clark's. Skylar is 28 while David Cornsweet is 31, so I doubt Jimmy will be much younger than Clark, just a few years. From there, you have Breck Bennett playing sports columnist Steve Lombard. Michaela Hoover plays the gossip and show business columnist Kat Grant. She also played another character in the very small role in the loose cannon The Suicide Squad, which is true for a few actors in this movie. Usually that would mean that casting would now be not canon, but for Michaela Hoover specifically, these characters look so different that I think it could remain canon. It's fine. Christopher McDonald plays politics reporter Ron Troop, and Wendell Pierce plays editor-in-chief Perry White. We don't know yet how large these characters' roles will be, but we can tell based on trailers and set photos that the Daily Planet will certainly get more play this time around compared to the DCU, at the very least outside of just Lois Lane, Clark Kent, and Perry White. Sticking to Superman's supporting cast, Clark's adopted parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, will be played by Pruitt Taylor Vince and Neva Howell, respectively, very much looking like an elderly couple from Kansas. The size of their roles is unknown, but they will almost certainly act as the place of comfort Clark returns to when he's struggling with the movie's conflict, likely also the home that he's returned to by Krypto. Speaking of, as previously mentioned, this Superman has an established history and a bit of a super family that includes Krypto the Superdog, who will be, like the comics, a dog from Krypton with all of the same powers as Superman and complete with the super logo collar and red cape. Unlike the comics, Krypto was a bit of a difficult pet to train, with very messy fur modeled in look and behavior after James Gunn's dog, Ozu. Ozu also inspired Gunn to write Krypto into the movie, as after Ozu destroyed James Gunn's furniture and computer, Gunn thought to himself what it would be like if Ozu had powers. If I had to guess, I think they're going to simplify things, and instead of having Krypto come to Earth separately, they'll explain that he came alongside Kara Zor-El. Maybe he's actually her dog, dog, or maybe he was Clark's dog as a baby and was sent with Kara, who could actually take care of him. Anyway, Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, will also appear in Superman, most likely just in a cameo. Kara will be played by Millie Alcock, and was described by James Gunn as a very jaded version of the character, which makes sense given that she watched her entire planet get destroyed. Like the comics, she's Kal-El's biological cousin on his father's side, and came to Earth after being stuck in stasis for decades, allowing for Clark to outage her. This appearance will lead into a spin-off movie called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which will release in June 2026, and act as the second movie in the DCU. Millie is currently 24, but is almost certainly, unlike David Cornsweet for instance, playing a bit younger, as the story her movie is directly based on takes place on her 21st birthday, which is important to the story since she goes out to drink. In most of the world, that would actually be 18. I could see that maybe aging her down even a bit for the international appeal to 18, so she's either 21 or 18 in 2026, and so either 20 or 17 in this movie. Either way, she likely came to Earth just a few years prior. I'd say anywhere from 2 to 4 years ago, somewhere between 14 and 18 years old. Supergirl also debuted in the Creature Commandos Vision. And finally, for the Super family, we see in the trailer a Fortress of Solitude super drone seemingly having been destroyed. The fact that Superman is seemingly mourning the death suggests that he had a personality beyond that of just a super drone, which suggests that he's actually kal-el, a Kryptonian service bot who runs the Fortress of Solitude. Alan Tudyk has a secret role in this movie, something that'll almost certainly be voice only, and I think that secret role is probably kal-el, given that maybe the highest profile role that he ever had was playing another robot, K2SO, in Rogue One. Which, by the way, hot take, is easily the best Star Wars movie, don't at me. Beyond that of the Super family, the movie will feature in very large roles 4 unrelated DC heroes, 3 of whom are wearing uniforms modeled after their leader, Mr. Terrific, and the logo of Lord Tech on their chest, meaning that they will be working for Maxwell Lord, who I'll get to soon. Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific, is played by Eddie Gathegi, is the leader of the group of the non-Superman related heroes, and the one with the largest role. In the comics, and I'm sure this will be true here too, Mr. Terrific is considered one of the 3 smartest people on Earth, alongside Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, although I think he could be considered one of the 2 smartest alongside Lex. I think they're both smarter than Bruce Wayne. He invented a series of gadgets that gave him superhuman-like abilities, which is how he fights crime, and noticeably, Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl's costumes are modeled after his, and even have the same T on them. This suggests that this could be an adaptation of the Terrifics, a relatively new introduced group of heroes meant to imitate the Fantastic Four. This version might be named the same, but with all different members, and not at all similar to the Fantastic Four anymore. This is kind of Michael Holt's live-action debut, as the version of Mr. Terrific in the Arrowverse was renamed, for whatever reason, to Curtis Holt. That being said, while it's maybe his live-action debut, it's actually not his DCU debut, as he appeared in that same vision in Creature Commandos. Guy Gardner, aka Green Lantern, is played by Nathan Fillion, who previously also played TDK in the loose canon project The Suicide Squad, a role that could be considered non-canon. Fillion is currently 53 years old, making Guy, like Hal Jordan, a lot older than usual. Given that Hal is older and John Stewart is considered a new recruit in Lanterns, Guy Gardner is likely, like the comics, the second human recruit to the Green Lantern Corps, and has likely been active as a Green Lantern for a while, at the very least given his age, potentially over a decade. Guy is sporting his iconic orange bowl haircut, and is also likely sporting his iconic unlikable douchebag with a heart of gold personality, at least initially. Guy will return to appear on Lanterns as well, but also he debuted in the Creature Commandos Vision. Like Mr. Terrific, this is also almost Guy Gardner's live-action debut, as the only other appearance is in a cancelled pilot for a Justice League show in the 90s, but that did technically air, so I guess it counts. Kendra Saunders, aka Hawkgirl, is played by Isabella Merced, who is just 23, so it's likely that Hawkgirl is very new to the scene and very inexperienced. In the comics, Kendra Saunders is the most recent reincarnation of the character, following the likes of Shiara Sanders and Shiara Hall, who typically make for some confusing stories alongside Hawkman. I think they're probably going to simplify things to Kendra being the most recent reincarnation of Shiara. If I had to guess, the previous incarnation was a member of the JSA in the 1940s, and probably Shiara Sanders, and she died of old age in the early 2000s to be reincarnated as Kendra Saunders. Unlike the other 3 non-Superman heroes, this is definitely not her live-action debut, as Kendra also appeared in the Arrowverse. universe. Hopefully, and this is true for Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner as well, this version will be a lot better. And also like those two, Hawkgirl appeared in the Creature Commandos Vision, her DCU debut. Finally is Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, played by Anthony Carrigan in what is definitely this character's live-action debut. Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, is a classic DC hero who was turned into a deformed monster by Simon Stagg, leaving him forever in that state while giving him very powerful chemistry-based abilities. It initially seemed like he would be working alongside Mr. Terrific's team. In fact, he is one of the members of the Terrifics in the comics, but he was cast separately, does not wear a Terrific-inspired suit, at the very least that's what it looks like in merchandise, and isn't seen appearing with the rest in footage or set photos. Metamorpho, it seems, will be completely separate, potentially having his origins show on screen, as we see Stagg Industries will be involved somehow in the movie. I could also see him starting off as a bit of an antagonist, kind of like Justice League Unlimited, but then eventually turning into a hero and maybe joining the Terrifics. Metamorpho, at least when he's not using his powers, is made entirely out of practical effects, makeup, and a suit that transforms the actor into a completely different person. Simon Stagg hasn't been cast, but I could definitely see him making a surprise appearance as well, and will at the very least be referenced through his company, Stagg Industries, as seen in the trailer. As previously mentioned, Mr. Terrific and his team will be working for Lord Tech, which is run by Maxwell Lord, who will be played by Sean Gunn and will appear in this movie in what is very likely a small role. It'll more so be Lord Tech that has a presence. Sean Gunn also played G.I. Robot and Weasel, which are voices, so it doesn't overlap. But what does overlap is that he played Calendar Man in a live-action cameo in the loose canon The Suicide Squad. That appearance, I think, can now be considered 100% non-canon. Lord has a bit of a wild comic history where his character went from being the Justice League manager to a metahuman with mind control powers to eventually becoming a Justice League level threat supervillain who is responsible for killing Ted Kord. This version of Lord will be based on his initial characterization of being a sleazy businessman and superhero manager, not necessarily a bad person. Aside from Lord, Superman will feature a relatively insane amount of other supervillains from the comics, but chief among them is obviously Lex Luthor, the main villain of the movie and tertiary main character alongside Clark and Lois. Lex is played by Nicholas Hoult, who is currently 35, likely the same age as the character. Lex is the owner and CEO of Luthor Corp, which is a name that suggests that he inherited the company from his father rather than being a self-made man. As if he was, he definitely would have called it Lex Corp, which is a name that I like so much more. I'm hoping that he changes it to that eventually. Lex is super bold, clearly absolutely despises Superman with every fiber of his being, and was described by James Gunn as being so intelligent that he feels like a sorcerer, inventing highly advanced tech and being able to orchestrate and manipulate almost anyone or anything. Lex will have a few characters working for him, including Eve Tessmacher, played by Sarah Sampaio, Lex's personal assistant and maybe love interest, who debuted in the 1978 Superman movie but mostly stayed exclusive to live action, not really appearing much in the comics but appearing a lot on Supergirl and now here. I could definitely see her being Lex's original assistant before maybe either dying or retiring and being replaced by Mercy Graves. Very similarly is Otis. Given the last name Berg, he also debuted in the 1978 Superman movie, also mostly being a live action exclusive character. Otis is Lex's henchman or a LexCorp security guard and will likely simply be an employee without any really nefarious motives, although there's nothing really to back that up. This movie will also feature 3 unknown villains who we can't really 100% confirm who they each are. For instance, there is this ball in the sky who is almost certainly Solaris, a sentient artificial sun who Lex teamed up with at the end of this movie's primary inspiration, All-Star Superman. The fact that he's purple and green, Lex's colors, suggests to me that the same thing will be happening here, in what seems to be maybe the climax of the movie. A huge kaiju with fire-breathing powers appears in the trailer fighting Superman, maybe as a reference to the 1941 Fleischer cartoon, The Arctic Giant, but he doesn't really look anything like that kaiju. He could also be a further mutated, or the opposite, early form Metamorpho, but as of now, it's unknown who this is, and I'm hoping we won't know until watching the movie. Similarly, this movie will feature a character named Superpowered Mystery Man, and also known as the Hammer of Baravia, a large superpowered individual sent to attack Metropolis for retribution for Superman intervening in the Baravian-Janahapurian conflict in this movie, leading to the hospitalization of 22 Metropolis civilians. Although, my theory is that this is not actually from Barovia, it's probably Lex Luthor. In the comics, Barovia doesn't really have any named individuals, and the character is unidentifiable as any specific DC character, so for now, we do not know who this is. As if all of that wasn't enough, Superman will also be forced to deal with this guy, a fully covered superpowered individual strong enough to take on Superman by himself, known as Ultraman. In the comics, Ultraman is the villainous Earth-3 Superman counterpart and the leader of the counterpart to the Justice League, the Crime Syndicate. This will absolutely not be that. It seems like Ultraman will be working for, or at least alongside, Argus, and will be arresting Superman for whatever reason. Given his Superman-level strength and the fact that he's fully masked, it seems like he'll be revealed to probably be a clone of Superman's who deteriorates into being Bizarro, and thus then, when unmasked, played by David Cornsweet. In set photos, Ultraman is seen arresting Superman alongside two other characters who connect to other projects. For instance, General Rick Flag, or Rick Flag Sr., is played by Frank Grillo, reprising his role and making the jump from animation to live action, appearing here in a small in-between role before then returning for a third time in a row, appearing in a main role in Peacemaker Season 2. Flag, very notably and disappointingly, looks very different. Rick Flag Sr. no longer has white hair due to Frank Grillo shooting something else at the same time, and Gunn not liking how temporary hair dye looks, which that will be the case on Peacemaker as well. The explanation for this is that he's a vain man who dyed his hair black to look younger. Still, the black hair and black shirt kind of takes away from all of his character's identity, making him more look like Brock Rumlow from the MCU rather than Rick Flag Sr. I kind of understand the hair, but they could have at least given him a yellow shirt. Anyway, Flag will be acting as a representative of Argus arresting Superman. It's not confirmed, but it seems very likely to me that Viola Davis as Waller will probably appear as well. The third character arresting Superman is Angela Spica, aka the Engineer, played by Maria Gabriela de Faria. In the comics, the Engineer is a founding member of the Authority with tech-based powers, weaponry, morphing powers similar to that of Blue Beetle. The Engineer will seemingly be a minor antagonist, which will lead into her appearance in the Authority movie, which has been confirmed for the DCU. The movie will also have a few minor characters that I thought I'd list, like Will Reeve playing a TV reporter, Fahim Fazli playing the leader of Jarhanpur, this kid from the trailer who seems like he's probably also from Jarhanpur, unrevealed characters played by Paige Mobley, Stephen Blakeheart, and as previously mentioned, that it's probably Kellex Alan Tudyk. There will also be a reference to the Swamp Thing villain Anton Arcane, and I'm sure at the very least a reference to Jor-El. If not, he's almost certainly going to be appearing in hologram form, given that there seems to be many scenes taking place in the Fortress of Solitude. It'd be weird if he didn't appear, we just don't know who's playing him. So there you have it, a movie full of Superman characters, other DC heroes, and connecting to many other projects, including Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Lantern, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, The Authority, and Swamp Thing, not to mention wherever Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, and specifically Maxwell Lord, who could probably appear in Booster Gold or Blue Beetle, will appear next. Truly a very strong foundation for a potentially grand universe. I mean, it's connecting to more confirmed projects than not. The ones that it's not connecting to are Paradise Lost and the Batman projects, so maybe each member of the Trinity will act as a different foundation for this universe, which sounds absolutely perfect. Thanks so much for watching.